Joe Biden is enjoying strong support in the black community right now, far eclipsing the support of Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. That has to be frustrating. And I understand the points they're trying to make. I'm not sure that it worked, although I have so much respect for both Kamala and Cory. They're both dear friends of mine. But I think that's what you're seeing, is that Joe Biden is so invincible in South Carolina because his numbers are so much higher than, in fact, so are Elizabeth Warren's and Bernie Sanders, I believe, in terms of support in the black community. So part of this is these candidates are trying to get more familiar to black voters, and I think that was one of the efforts that was being made tonight by both Cory Booker and Kamala Harris.
Eugene?
Yeah, I think several candidates were making that effort tonight. I'll get to Buttigieg in a minute. But, that moment, look, that was one of the Bidenisms. There were a couple of others in this debate. He's been spouting Bidenisms for his entire career. I mean, he misspeaks all the time, and he has done so for a long time. But I actually think that he had some really good moments in this debate. Mm-hmm. I mean, when he was talking, when the debate turned to foreign affairs, and he talked about the Khashoggi murder in Saudi Arabia. He talked about how he would deal with China, how he saw that that relationship. I thought he sounded authoritative in a way that showed his experience and his stature as vice president. And overall, it was kind of a Biden day, right? Because we watched an impeachment hearing for hours and hours, all talking about Biden.
Dozens of times.
And then I thought he did pretty well.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.